Director of Public Affairs Department for the City of Raleigh. As an introduction here, if you're looking for anything other than the budget, staffing, and programming workshop, you're in the wrong place. But, thank you very much for coming. First, I want to kind of go over really the most important part of actually getting budget, getting money for your department to support you. I'm just going to be repeating pretty much what you're going to keep hearing and hearing and hearing. You got to make friends with people who control the purse strings. If you have an adversarial relationship with anybody on council, you don't have a positive relationship, then you cause yourself to be not as successful as you could be otherwise. Because the other part of getting them, having a good relationship with them is getting them involved. You know, get them involved in what you're doing. Make sure they know what you're doing, not just at a council meeting. You know, if you go to talk to them once at a council meeting, once again, you're not doing what you can do to get yourself as much support as you can. As an example, I'll talk a little bit about what we do very shortly in Raleigh. We have council members who take on certain actions, certain things that they want the city to be doing. And once those things are achieved, then we utilize the different council members who initiated that project to introduce them to the public. We had one council member who introduced a service called Fix. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's a method by which people in the community can go to the website, report a problem like a pothole, a tree limb down in the road, anything. And it's automatically forwarded to the department head responsible for that part of the city services, and it's taken care of immediately. Well, we utilized him to do a PSA motion spot to introduce Fix. So as we do those things, you get the people more involved. React directly as quickly as possible to any input you get from these folks. We got a couple of complaints from council members that people couldn't hear, people in the audience couldn't hear presenters at the podium who are making presenters to their presentations to the council, particularly when they're using something like this, because they would turn away to talk about it, you couldn't hear them. So basically what we did is we put another microphone right there. So the first thing after the next meeting, the city manager, the council member who complained, and the mayor all said, "What you guys do? Fix that." We told them. So, it's taking care of those things and making sure you're responsive and so forth as quickly as possible, because these are the guys that will make it possible or impossible for you to be successful. The transparency of what you're doing, not hiding anything, whatever it is, extremely important. If you try to do something and council members don't know about it, they find out about it afterwards, they're going to be very unhappy about it. I don't speak from personal experience, but I do speak from hearing stories from other folks. The city has 4 different channels. You may have heard. The city has 2 public access channels, an educational access channel, and a government access channel. 8 staff members plus me. We produce all the stuff that runs on the government access channel, except for the stuff that we get from Wake County. We are the facilitating organization for the county. The county produces coverage of their own committee meetings, council meetings, school board meetings, and we're linked to them by fiber. They send it to us, we program it, we put it on the channel. So basically anything that Wake County produces, we run, we facilitate it. We also have 2 public access channels with about 150 different producers. So we try to make sure we communicate to them, get email addresses, communicate to them, get their support. Because if anything changes, they're going to be the people that are going to be complaining to council. So, you know, you want to make sure that you communicate anything from it's different. We also stream our government channel 24/7, and we make sure people know all about those things. We try to be Switzerland whenever we're dealing with different organizations. You know, we particularly when people come to us with content issues, which happens 2, maybe 3 times a year, knock on wood, where people complain. And basically what we deal with on content issues, the most complaints we get are complaints that someone did something that somebody didn't appreciate. It touched the nerve. Not anything to do with nudity or any of the stuff you might think, but just somebody did something the wrong way. So we deal with those pretty quickly, pretty regularly, or as quickly as we can. But like I said, I just wanted to do a quick little summary of what we're doing there and introduce the folks who are going to be providing some additional information. Michael Carswell is Station Manager, Channel 26, City of Atlanta. Kimberly McMillan, who's the Director of Corporate Communications and Marketing for the City of Charlotte. Bill Freeman, who's the Department Chair of Media Technologies for Central Carolina Community College. And Andy Tuggle, who's the VP of Sales for Americas for PlayBox Technologies. And I'd like to thank PlayBox for actually supporting this meeting here. Michael, would you like to go first?
Good morning. How's everyone this morning? Good. My name is Michael Carswell, Station Manager, City of Atlanta. The City of Atlanta owns 3 access channels. We have a government access channel, we have the public access channel, which is called People TV, and then we also have an education channel, which is owned and operated by Clark Atlanta University, historically Black College in Atlanta. I am responsible for the government access channel, and we have a staff of 3 photographers, 2 producers, and then we also have a part-time producer. And so today I just want to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to be brief because I'd rather entertain questions and hear what everyone else is doing as opposed to just take up all the time. But I want to talk a little bit about how we go about finding creative ways to create content with a very limited staff, which I'm sure most of us experience around the region. One of the biggest challenges that we have in the City of Atlanta is we monthly air anywhere from 26 to 30 council meetings. And those meetings run anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 hours live. For instance, Monday, we and I were just talking, we just passed our stadium deal on Monday, so we're going to get a new stadium in Atlanta. And the council meetings they start at 1 o'clock, and that meeting ran from 1 o'clock and it didn't end until 8:30. So council, I've been with the city a little over 2 years, and one of the things, on top of airing these meetings, they want the meetings rebroadcast within a 24-hour time frame. So the problem that I run into is during the course of the week, and I've actually fought really hard, and Michael just mentioned it, trying to establish those relationships with council members to make them understand if I continue to run these meetings over and over and over, there's no program. No one gets to watch it. We're not telling a story about the City of Atlanta. We're just watching council meetings. So when I first got there, sometimes a committee on council meeting could run 15 times a week, which it kind of defeats the purpose of what we're there for. So the bottom line is what we've done is we've approached some of the council members and said, as opposed to running these council meetings over and over and over, what if we take some of your initiatives that you have? For instance, I'll just give you an example. We have a council member, he has a healthy eating initiative, and it's called Live Smarter, Live Better. So he and I sat down about a year and a half ago, and he wanted to do a show. Well, we didn't have the staff to do the show. We also didn't have the time to do the show because of the council meetings that air constantly. So what we talked about was, what if, as a part of your yearly budget, you set aside some money and we look at a freelance producer who will push that initiative that you want. In other words, come up, sit down with you, create the segments, talk about the segments that you want to do, the subject matter, and then we'll shoot and produce and put it on the channel. So now that council member has a segment called Live Smarter, Live Better that we produce once a month, sometimes twice a month. The point is he still gets his airtime. We still talk about a segment on the channel that goes to everyone. Live Smarter, Live Better. We talk about healthy eating, we talk about exercise, and just a variety of different things. Now we're really into the whole recycling thing in the city of Atlanta. So that's one way we did it. And then what happened was 3 or 4 other council members said, hey, how's that work? And sat down and had that same conversation. So that was a creative way to get more programming without straining my budget. The council, they're not spending a lot of money, but they get to control what they want to talk about. But for us, it's great programming, and it helps the citizens of Atlanta, which is what we're there to do. Another thing that we've done is we had a couple full-time employees who, let's just be honest, they just weren't pulling the weight. So one of the decisions that I made was, as opposed to just, again, straining my budget, we went with freelance editors and photographers. I'm not getting eat up on the benefits. So I went in, and now we just use them as freelancers. So they come in. Most of these folks have television experience. So if I had a guy who can only maybe crank out 2 or 3 stories a week or 2 or 3 stories every couple of days, I can have a freelancer come in, everything's sitting on the table for him, and he can crank out all those stories in one day. It saves me money, it creates programming. The other thing that we've done is we have, as Michael mentioned, reached out to some of the bigger organizations in Atlanta. Red Cross, Habitat for Humanities, and they now give us programming. It really was about building relationships, and we just didn't have that 2 years ago. It was really all about city council meetings. That's pretty much all that we did. So we really found ways to go outside the box, to create programming, to get staff. Another thing that we did was we sat down. We have about 12 major departments that most cities have, the typical ones: APD, Fire, Atlanta Police Department, Fire, Public Works, Parks and Rec. So I sat down with a lot of the PIOs across the city, and I identified 4 or 5 of them who had prior television experience. And so again, the deal was, you guys give me the content. Tell me the stories you want to do about your individual departments. We'll shoot the video, we'll do all of the editing, but you get to create the content. We get your department on and make your commissioner happy, and we create programming for the channel. Now, once we did that, what we also found, for instance, we found a PIO in the planning department. She used to be a health reporter in Florida years back. So she said, Michael, you know, really my passion is health stories. I said, great, let's create a health segment. So now we have a health segment on the channel called City Health Check. We've done stories from, you know, heat stories about kids in high school and how they deal with the heat when they're practicing. We've done stories on fibroids. We've done stories on cancer. And we've won awards for these. Just different things, again, that help the community, but it's a way to get extra programming on the channel without spending any real money to do so, without adding staff, so to speak. We identified, again, another person with the police department who used to be a producer for ESPN. Her love is sports, but she had a child, she needed to get off the road. She took a job as a public information officer with the police department. So now she creates sports segments for us. We do high school football games, we do baseball games, we do a coach's show. So these are just things that we were able to do, again, without stretching the budget. Now, the relationship part comes in where I have to go sit down with their boss and say, can we have them sometimes to do this work, to go out and shoot the stories, to set up the interviews. And most of the commissioners don't have a problem with that because they see the value in it. And for me, It's just been a great tool to find the resources inside the city. We have 7,000 employees, so in the city of Atlanta, and we have the largest airport in the world. So when I started looking across that board, I could really find some folks who could help communications professionals, former journalists. I found a gentleman in another department who was proficient in Final Cut Pro. But again, during the economic downturn, he took a job at the city, but his love is for editing. And he's willing to edit product for us. His commissioner allows him to do it, and we are able to, again, create content. It really helps. And the main thing was we were able to start to balance out the channel, because prior 2 years ago, it was probably 95% just council meetings over and over. And now we're probably 60-40, and the goal is to get to 50-50. And I think the other part of that is just coming up with a plan, looking down the road, which I know everyone does. But it's hard when your council members or your mayor, in my case, just flat out tell you the money is just not there. So how do you think about ways outside the box to do that? The other thing that we've done, again, staffing and creative programming, is we have now tied what we call the 3 platforms. So we have a channel, live streaming, and then social media. So we set it up now to where the minute someone posts something to the channel, it automatically goes, of course it goes to the live stream, but it also goes to social media. So it goes straight to the Facebook page, it goes straight to YouTube. There's so many platforms, and the idea is to reach different types of viewers. I heard a gentleman in the previous session, and he mentioned that you have a lot of seniors who watch our channel, but then you have the idea is to get some young people in there, and those are the people who live on the computers, the PDAs, and the droids, and the iPhones, and the tablets, and things like that. So it's just, for us, it's really been a challenge, but we are really starting to overcome that challenge, and we really love the work that we're doing. We recently, and again, the partnership, we found a company that's based out of Atlanta called Earth Channel. We were trying to stream on our own, and it was a nightmare. And we reached out to them, and they came in with a solution. So they handle all of our streaming. But the beauty of this, and I'm just using them as an example, the beauty of this Earth Channel company is it now allows me to go out, and I can now do what I can have web streaming live. So if you think City of Atlanta, we should have been doing this stuff years ago, some of these things, but we weren't. We just streamed our first Mayor's State of the City breakfast, which is always in January. It was the first time we've ever streamed it live. And in this day and age, live streaming, as you all know, it's not a big deal. But again, it's about those partnerships. It's about coming up with creative ways to find staff that are not in-house all the time. And I don't have a very big budget at all. I tease my boss constantly, because when I look around the country at some of these smaller counties and their budget totally really big. But it's just all, in my opinion, it's just all about how you go find that different way in 2013 to create staffing and create work. Any questions?
That's it.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you and share our hometown here in Charlotte. So thank you for being here today. I need to introduce 2 of my team members that are with me today, because they do all the work. And one is Wendy Bing, and she's the corporate video manager. Years ago, she was station manager, but just listening to what Michael said about the full integration of video into all the communication channels. We've recently had a title change, which has elevated our importance across the organization, because let's face it, we have to do a sales job every year. And I'm going to reference some budget in a minute, but it's really about demonstrating value. We're all talking about where to find the money, but we have conversations all the time about demonstrating our value, because when you do that, you're able to sustain and maintain your budget, which is a good thing year to year. And another member of the team is Kevin Ryan, and Kevin is a video editor and animation and graphics, and so we have a really great team. And the whole entire corporate communications department, which I'm going to give you a little overview of what we look like. We have 19 folks in corporate communications, and I have to say that the whole studio, the video operations, is probably one of my most enjoyable areas of responsibility. It just allows us to be creative, and that's the future. The future is technology, correct? So it's a very exciting operation. We have a total budget of $449,000, but I want to talk about that. I want to put it into context. We had a budget cut in 2005, and we have maintained at that level since 2005. So I think that helps tell the story about how you have to leverage and continue to demonstrate your value. The channel is 29 years old. We'll be celebrating 30 soon. And this is just a breakdown of how we staff. I introduced Wendy. We have a full-time engineer who's contracted and actually helped build the studio. So, and we also leverage his experience with our building service folks when we need to update the chamber, we need to do some environmental lead initiative when it comes time to looking at the lights. I mean, one of the things we had a conversation around a couple years ago, our people, our elected officials and our staff were just getting burnt. The dais was so hot. But it takes money to, have those 20-year bulbs budgeted and things like that. Well, that's where we're adding value. We're actually, helping consult with the engineer and the building services team. We have a producer, and we have a producer marketing coordinator. That was another shift in philosophy about 2 years ago. We recognized that we needed to become marketing specialists, just not outside of what we do in the studio and video. We needed to become marketing and sales people. So we focused on that. Director, editor, and 2 editors. And we have a chief videographer who also works on master control and our electronic bulletin board. And we have a pool of contractors. And the interesting thing I want to say about the pool of contractors, not only do they help with video, and it also ties in with the talent, we also leverage media training. And so we have trained probably 300 middle-level managers and up on media training. We actually use our talent and our hosts from the Gov channel who have that professional background with media, and we leverage that out of another budget for media relations and training. Okay, now, we recently went through a rebrand of the channel. We did this, and Wendy, if you want to go to the next slide. We did this in 2008. I came to the city in 2007. I have an advertising, marketing, corporate, nonprofit background, and so branding is very important to me. And in 2008, we took a look at that former logo. We took a hard look at it. We asked ourselves, are we prepared for the digital environment and possibly other providers in the marketplace? We stressed our channel number too much because at the time we didn't know where we'd be on the tiers. We have stayed on the tier, but it has given us more flexibility and room to grow. The objectives for the new brand, we needed to become more reflective of our vast programming. We wanted to project that we're more than just city government, and I'll talk a little bit about that, the other type of government programming. We opened ourselves up. We wanted to become a regional brand, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We needed to create connections and partnerships. We had an outside ad agency help us create our new logo. They provided fonts that were friendlier, more inviting. It was all part of the brand effort. And then we wanted to improve the legibility of our station identifier, and that was very important to us. And then we wanted to introduce an on-air and an online tag to prepare for the streaming and where we are on the internet and in social media. So here's our new logo, and I'm going to just pause here for a minute. When you are dedicated to branding your channel, you start to create conversations around your channel. You start to create awareness around your channel, and you start to have people come to you and say, tell us more about this channel. And I often joke, we're safe TV. We're not out to embarrass anyone. We're out to do the in-depth stories. You build that trust with your elected officials and other nonprofits in the community and your partners, and they feel very comfortable coming on and working with you. So what we do with all of our folks are branded. So, okay, we're going to walk the talk here because I'm big in wearing the brand. So every guest on the channel, anybody that we work with gets a mug. Again, it starts to go out and create those conversations around your channel and the value of your channel. Okay, let's move into what we do with programming. I think we have a slide. And I'm sorry, I can't see this thing when I do. Okay, so our regularly scheduled programming. Michael talked a lot about what they do with their elected official programming, but we went from a weekly program format for City Source to a bi-weekly feature show, which is an in-depth program, because it just allows us to compete with the traditional stations in the marketplace. We're not going to be out there with the lead and bleed 20 and 40-second stories. We know that's not our niche, not our purpose. So what we do, we're very intentional about the programming that we develop and put on. The Point, which is hosted by our mayor has really embraced the channel. Has embraced the channel to the point where we are producing more shows with him. He's holding media briefings live on the channel, and he's also using the whole idea, the whole concept of what we can do. Think about a very busy mayor getting invited all over the place to welcome, do conferences. He can't do it all the time. So he comes down to the studio and he records video messages. So we're adding our value. We're saving him. He can't be everywhere in one place at one time. So we produce these messages. It could be a welcome message for a convention or a conference coming to town. It could be where they've asked him to give remarks and he can't simply be there. It's a win-win for everybody. And so we've seen an increase in our budget, a minor increase, but it's the ability we have to add to that additional workload. And it's paid full benefits. So I highly recommend looking at how you can advance the mission or the objectives or the goals of even your mayor's office or particular elected officials. The live coverage of the council meetings, I think we all know about that. Queen City Limits, okay, if the mayor has a show, then 11 other council members need something, right? And so we used to have Queen City Limits. It's not completely gone, but we are experimenting with a different type of effort with our elected officials. But Queen City Limits was an opportunity for each of our elected officials to come on a show at least 6 times throughout the year on a particular matter. Well, it gets really difficult to coordinate their schedules, and you bring in a host, and if you don't have one, so we looked at a different way to parlay that, and we'll show you later in the presentation. We now have something called Council Spotlights, and Council Spotlights are where we go to them. So if they're attending a committee meeting in the government center, we send a crew member, we send a staff member upstairs to interview them about the agenda for the committee. We might work with the staff who resources that committee to say, would it be better to interview them before or after? So we get some direction there. Sometimes it's after because they're coming out of a big discussion and we want to get, where do we go next? What can the public expect? Will this be brought up for vote? That type of thing. And we're able to deliver that real-time, in-depth information that sets us apart, that gives us a little bit of a differentiation among the other channels. The council budget workshops and public hearings, we just had one yesterday where we streamed our first budget workshop. Ours only went 3 hours, but I know we'll have some late nights coming. Press conferences, as I mentioned, oath of office and award ceremonies, and then the real-time information. So you're asking about creating that content. Again, it gets back to the brand. It gets back to telling the story of your organization. I think we passed out a brochure called Charlotte at a Glance. Charlotte at a Glance is a brochure that is primarily the elevator speech of every department. Okay? It helps our council members when they go out to community meetings, report on how many gallons of water we treat every year, how many fires we respond to, how many calls we take at our call center. It's just the city at a glance. And so what that does is that provides great content for billboards. So we believe that the channel has to be part of an integrated marketing communications plan. You shouldn't see anything in print or on the web that you don't see on the channel. So we're all about integrating marketing. Some of the other types of messages, events and attractions. While we can't go out and cover every parade or every festival, we offer the promotional value of the channel. We run events and attractions. Be on the lookout. I couldn't believe this when I first got to the city, that one of our most popular deadbeat parents, or inmate lookup. I mean, it's just phenomenal what you hear about are things that people look for. The traffic alerts, and one of the, I think one of the most endearing programs that we do is the pet adoption. And so when we do pet adoption, that has also allowed us to get some additional funding from Animal Care and Control, which is a division within our police department. So again, it's adding that value and getting real-time information. Well, these are real pets available now for adoption. So, and we actually have asked, okay, what's resulted? What's the ROI on this? Can you give me some measurement? And we can provide those kind of statistics. Let's see what's next. Okay, the free and partnership programming. Any programming that we develop really has to stay true to the objectives of the new brand. If you ever feel inundated or you ever feel like you have a problem saying no, we've talked about policies, we've talked about guidelines. If you have objectives for programming, it will help you say no. It will help you stay on the true mission of your brand. And again, we're about advancing comprehensive citizen service. That is a buzzword, that and engagement. You start talking about comprehensive citizen service and engagement, you get the attention of people who make the decisions and who control the budget. And again, comprehensive citizen service is about promoting things that are call center. We've actually helped offload some calls for things that we can put on the channel on a regular basis. When are meetings, when are things happening, things that people can find out from the channel that they don't necessarily have to call 311 for. The highlights of the city focus areas, really this is where I call this our product lines. This is what we're in the business of doing. The county has parks and social services. We're kind of the infrastructure of the city, and we do have the environment and the public safety. The county has everything else, if that helps put it in perspective. And then obviously things have to promote council's priorities and policies, and then we use the channel in all of our media to gain public input. Our partners, okay, some of the folks that you see on here, we actually help fund. We have a funding relationship with them. The Chamber of Commerce, anything that ties back to that focus area. Remember, economic development was a focus area. Our partners reflect our priorities, and often they're able to either provide an environment in which we don't have to come up with a theme or come up with content. They're already supplying that content. Say they have a conference on economic development, whatever that might be, our mayor's involved, we can go out there and capture it. Yes, it is dispatching a crew, and yes, it is bringing it back for editing, but again, that content, that environment is provided for us. I think I've heard folks talk about United Way, and then Mecklenburg County. We do carry some programming from Mecklenburg County, and on occasion we've also partnered with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, but they do have CMS TV as well. But we look for those opportunities because parents are taxpayers. We share the same viewership, the same base of people. Union County board meetings, I think I referenced that our Gov channel, the purpose of the new logo was to go beyond city limits, to add that value to the region. We also have had conversations with our 5 neighboring towns. How can we help you? And if they're willing to put a budget together to cover something, we're willing to put it on the channel. So it's all about those. I think Mike, you talked a lot about partnerships, and I can't underscore that enough. It's really partnerships and relationships. Again, So Union County, again, a neighboring county, we carry their board meetings because they do not have their own dedicated channel, so we're adding value there. And the Charlotte Housing Authority actually helped us produce these magnets and marketing materials. They come to us to produce videos. We also incorporate those segments into City Source because, again, why would we do that? Well, one of our focus areas, one of our product lines is housing and neighborhood development. That speaks to that focus area. And then I had to add Nassau because when we don't care, y'all are chuckling, but you know, if that goes down for some reason, we get emails. So if you want feedback, maybe just take something off air one day and you'll get a bunch of emails and you'll get that feedback on how valuable your channel is. Now our specialized program, we also have some areas that we like to focus on. We want to capitalize on our reputation for public-private partnerships since there was city and taxpayer investment in the building of the Hall of Fame. We had cameras from our channel watching the build out and doing kind of time-lapse, so we were able to create a documentary. So maybe today, if you have some kind of upcoming project on the horizon, talk to the engineers, talk to the contractors. In our case, the client was NASCAR in the future, that was their future home. We did a lot of partnerships where we were able to produce a documentary. We also like to celebrate history and milestones. We go to our Community Relations Committee. They do a phenomenal amount of community engagement and programming. We covered the 50th anniversary. Again, that came from their budget. It was very important for them to get that story out there. Remembering Hugo, this, how we forget 20 years ago, and our emergency preparedness effort has come so far that we invited everybody back who worked at the city 20 years ago, who lived through that event, and we had a show on emergency preparedness because in North Carolina, tornadoes are an issue for us. March, May, and November. We have to be ready for that. So again, we use emergency preparedness as a content provider. And then of course the Miracle on the Hudson. I mean, that was a tragedy, but our mayor at the time wanted to come back and recognize Captain Sully and the heroes and the whole flight crew. That was, I still get hair still raised on my arm when I think about that day. That was just a phenomenal event that we carried live from our chamber. And then I wanted to share one of the things we now look at is how can we use the channel to prepare our community for large-scale events. And of course, we just came through the 2012 Democratic National Convention. And this is really a case study. We still have a website that's available, dncinfo.charlottenc.gov. When we look at programming, we look for shelf life and longevity and flexibility. And we built a template with our programming, with our web, and with our communication strategy that now we can do rncinfo.charlottenc.gov, olympics.info, charlottenc.gov, Super Bowl. I mean, we've had some pretty ambitious, Atlanta's done all this, I know, so I'll be calling you. But, we've had some pretty ambitious conversation around these type of events. But the Gov channel was phenomenal in helping prepare our community. And we developed a campaign, and again, think about, even on a small scale, what you can do with your channel and the other communication outlets that you have across your organization. We actually used geography. The 277 loop became the theme of our campaign. And so let me just tell you how this can work on a very small scale. We did a big scale, but I had university partners that they're kind of their chamber offshoot, their economic development group say, this would be a great footprint for a smaller scale campaign up in the university area. We said, what can we do to help? Recycle anything you want. How can we help you? So again, the whole idea was, if you live in this loop, if you work in this loop, if you want to get into this loop, out of this loop. During the convention, we're going to have an In the Loop campaign. And again, the videos that we created, and we can't show them all to you, but a lot of them were event specific. But let me give you an example. Our Deputy Chief Ron Kinnenberg of the Fire Department, we asked him to come in and do a video message on occupancy for events. It wasn't specific to the DNC, but we used that to push out. So one of our former partners, Center City Partners in the Chamber, they pushed these videos and the website out to their contact distribution list, which built capacity for us to our website and for our channel, because people came to register through GovDelivery to receive all this information. And the story about the fire chief is he was able to remind businesses, restaurant owners, hotels, don't forget about the key ordinances and the fire code. And we heard from the business community, restaurant owners and managers, that they actually used our videos and programming for staff meetings to prepare for the event. Now that's a win-win, and that, you know, that has a lot of interesting benefits. So that was all pre-event, and then during the event, the channel just, I mean, blew it out of the water. I mean, everybody just exceeded expectations. It was the 24-hour coverage. Yes, we had to bring in freelancers. Yes, we had to, you know, reprioritize projects in order to be able to do this event. But it did result in 44 interviews and 39 field stories. And again, to tell that whole story, you have a copy of a manager's report. Now, I think Michael's structure is very similar to ours, where he has somebody, you have a director, and hopefully you all are part of some type of report to your leadership. And what we have found that we need to do is also report for the departments. Even though they may have some PIOs and web folks in their departments, it's incumbent upon us to put together a report for the city manager's office and elected officials so that they know the value we're adding. So I look at how you're reporting and how you're promoting your work. I think that's very important. And then, of course, there's a handout that gives you a schedule of the programming during the DNC to give you kind of a flavor. So I think we're going to see a couple videos. How's my time? Okay, let's hurry up here.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Flowers, CEO of Charlotte Area Transit System. From September 3rd to 5th, CATS will be operating the transit center from a temporary location at the corner of 3rd and Mint Street. During the month of August, CATS will be conducting a series of...
So just, you know, I don't want to take more time than necessary and wait for the other speakers, but if you do visit DNC Info, and if we have any time after, I'll be happy to show these videos, but it does help tell the story. So maybe we'll go to the last wrap up. So again, the department videos, we act as brokers. If the departments need something produced, if they can pay for the videographer, our freelance videographer, we bring it in, we do the editing. That's how we cost share. Shared services, shared resources is becoming a big term in our particular environment, and we're also going to our partners and asking where can we share equipment and where can we do more remote type packages. When we do those videos for the departments, they're often incorporated into CitySource. So again, it's all about repackaging and repurposing. We have developed an HTTP site. One thing that was burning up our budget was every time somebody was on TV, they were asking us to burn a DVD. We saw our DVD budget go from $3,000 to $10,000. Now that's saying something that people do. People love themselves on TV. Let's just be honest. And you know, they often call and say, "Can I?" So now we put this on an HTTP, or if it's streamed, they have other ways to do that. And again, training and recruitment. We'll maybe play that at the end, but the recruitment videos, again, are helping CMPD with their specific mission. The council spotlights, I did want to show this. This is what I was talking about before, and then I'll just wrap up there.
Where now the spotlight is on City Council and its Housing and Neighborhood Development Committee. We caught up with two of its members, Patsy Kinsey and Warren Cooksey, immediately following a meeting of that committee. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. It's good to be here.
What's happening with the affordable housing and the neighborhood improvement program?
Well, this is a huge subject, and we're going to have to take it sort of one bite at a time. It's very important to the citizens of this community.
So it just gives you a sense of how we, use that content. That content's right there, and we just went out and captured it. So I have a lot more to share, but I want to be respectful of my time. Thank you all.
I think we'll have plenty of time, because mine will be short and sweet. And I won't put the water bottle out of reach, so I don't offer it. Is there anyone here that does not have a PEG channel, and you're here to find out about putting one up? Good. So I don't need to give you the speech about try to get everything up front while you can before the marriage is done and the honeymoon is over, and now they look at you, because we've gone from one extreme to the other here. My name is Bill Freeman. I'm the department chair at a community college for mainly a broadcasting curriculum. So we're located in Sanford, North Carolina, which is just south of Raleigh. It's one of the smallest counties. Lee County is one of the smallest counties in the state. So we've now gone from almost $450,000 in budgets to almost zero. Because coming into this situation, we didn't have the forethought or even the expertise of knowing to get as much as you can out of it before you are given the channel to then operate. Our president went to the city of Sanford, which had the PEG channel running on channel 11 on charter, and said, hey, I'd like to have an hour of your time so that our broadcasting curriculum could maybe make some content for your channel and just maybe have an hour's worth. So then the city said, we're not interested. Go to the county. They're looking at putting one up. So then he went to the county and they said, hey, great idea. We're going to not only let you have an hour, we just want to give you the channel. So we went from running 2 radio stations for part of our broadcast curriculum, which is my background is in radio, and all of a sudden we were inheriting 2 PEG channels. Well, obviously it takes a little while to get them up and running, so the first PEG channel was for the educational portion, and this time last year was the first time I had attended the SEATOA, and we were in Tennessee then, and I was getting text messages from our instructor who was frantically trying to meet the 300 hours which we were required to have programming so that the county could then get their PEG channel launched in time to get the money that was coming back from the government, which all this is you probably already know about, right? Everybody already knows about the money coming back from the government, and you get all of it, right? Okay, well, suffice it to say, the county has yet to recoup their investment of about $90-some thousand in all this equipment, so we haven't seen anything yet. We are promised that eventually, yes, when we've paid for ourselves, we will then start giving you some budget. So in the meantime, I think, Michael, you entitled my portion content creation when budgets are controlled by others. And that's very appropriate, because like I said, all it really requires is time and money. That's what I tell my wife all the time. Every time she gives me a list of things to do around the house. Well, have you done the tile in the bathroom yet? Well, honey, I'm not dead yet. Just give me some time, give me some money, I'm good to go. So that's where I feel like we're in the process right now, is trying to then continue to get either the time or the money. Because as I said, we're running a curriculum which is teaching students to get a 2-year associate degree in broadcasting. 1 year, you've got radio content, and the second year, you've got video content. So you're learning how to do audio editing and then video editing. That's where we get the content from for our PEG channel. So we're now hoping to have throngs of students coming to our curriculum so that we can train them how to do video so that they can be our labor for free, creating content that is involved in what's going around the county. Now again, a small county, maybe 45,000, 46,000 people. There's not a lot goes on. We don't have festivals. We don't have the Democratic convention coming to town. We don't, you know, you got to be pretty creative in a situation like that. I grew up in the town. People always used to ask me, so what do you do in Sanford? And I'd always say, you leave. Well, I mean, we've got all these major highways, 421, 15, 501, 87, so we can be at the mountains in 2.5 hours, at the beach in 2.5 hours, down playing golf in Pinehurst, or in Raleigh, spending our money. Just trying to spend your money in Raleigh. Yeah, you would. In Charlotte, 2.5 hours. We spend money here too. Yeah, IKEA. Yeah. That's another one of those time and money issues that I was talking about. It's okay, honey, I'll get the kitchen done soon. But basically, when you're working with students and trying to train them on how to create content for a PEG channel, you're starting from zero with where's the power switch for the camera, and then trying to get them trained in a year, and also covering all that content with camera angles and shots and lighting and etc. So basically, as we got the situation running, the county government already had a TriCaster in place in their chambers. So the chamber meetings were already being videoed to the TriCaster, but that's about as far as it went. So now we are responsible for putting out the content by way of fiber to our campus from their chambers, and then putting it back out live. And how many IT people do we have here? A few. We really rely on the IT people because the county, that was their job to run the county PEG channel, basically, is the IT guys, and that's what I'm finding out prior to this meeting, where we have lots of budget here from I guess counties or cities, City of Atlanta, City of Charlotte, yeah, okay. So basically, most of their budgets come from, and they are employed by the cities and the counties that they serve, which is a great thing. Again, we discovered as we tried to help the county reach that 300-hour programming that it had to be original content. At first, original content was allowed to be the camera that looks at the busy street in front of the building that houses the government. Again, we're in a small county. There's not a lot of traffic even going on out there, so it's a very boring shot. We also serve two other counties, Pittsboro, Harnett County and Chatham County. Chatham has Pittsboro. I don't know if anybody remembers, there was a historic courthouse in the square or the circle in Pittsboro. They caught on fire one night as they were renovating it, and they had a camera that shot that. That was their video. I mean, that was their look as they had the street cam, and that was their most popular channel to watch that night. Was watching this poor courthouse try to be saved, and now they're slowly rebuilding it. But be that as it may, that didn't count for the 300 hours of programming, so we had to punt and then go back. And you're saying, somebody, I think it was you, said you get tired of watching the county commissioner meetings. Well, we discovered that we could actually go back in the archives and show the old county commissioner meetings to count as original programming. So again, when you're trying to come up with ways where, again, you have no budget and you're trying to meet certain criteria, you'll be very creative in what you can find. We also have found some content from some internet sites. I don't know if anybody's been able to get other content out there from pegmedia.org. Has anybody discovered that? Okay, good. Yeah, that was a good one for us too, because they've got all sorts of interesting shows. Because otherwise, again, watching the county commissioner meetings, you're relying on PSAs from other people. If you do have a community college in your area, or a college or university in your area, and like you were saying, people love to see themselves on television. Teachers run that gamut. It's either you find a teacher who is very shy and does not want to be on camera, or the total opposite, where the teacher loves to see themselves on camera. So again, if you're looking for content, there's a lot of teachers that are doing courses, classes, short seminars on things that might be of interest to put on your PEG channel. You know, how to dress for an interview. Amazing that people do not know how to dress for an interview, in case you have any 20-somethings in your life, and they're going out for a job interview in their t-shirt and tennis shoes. No, son, that is not how you go impress people. You have to wear a tie at least with your tennis shoes. But little things like that that are a great help to the community, as well as filling up time. Of course, graduation is always a great one, where you get to see the kids walk across the stage, and then you're back to burning a DVD for moms and dads. you advertise your DVDs for sale? Yeah, because we covered that earlier with the whole, you know, running for sort of like a nonprofit where you cannot do the advertisement. So we do have some people that are now, after 2 years, we've been in it for about 2 years, started to contact us to do video work with them, the county health department. One woman came up with she was doing a book actually with her son on Super Size Me. Opposite of that, called Portion Size Me, where he was doing his own fitness book and how to eat correctly, and they actually got some footage out of that so that we could run that on the channel. And then mainly just tons of programming, like I said, from the PEG Media Group for graceful aging, healthy living, cooking with comedy. Who knew? Dungeon of Drek. I'm not sure what the Dungeon of Dr. Drek is, but anyway, as well as Disc Golf Live and In the Garage. So we've got some very interesting segments that get run on our cable channel. But other than that, like I said, getting started, I wish in hindsight we had asked for more up front. I think our best use of equipment is trying to share things with the students in addition to trying to have things available for the one part-time person that we can use for about 20 hours a week, who is also an instructor for us, and he can go out and shoot and kind of take care of some things that we can't get to with our students because, again, we've got to cover certain things in our curriculum. So if it doesn't fall within the guidelines of the curriculum and we start getting these requests for video, then you have to turn them down or explain to people and educate them. And I think that's another big part of running a PEG channel is educating the public or educating the people you work for what is required. You know, a lot of us that have done it for a while, you're automatically, you know that you can't do a 4-minute video in 4 minutes. It's just not possible. So you have to educate a lot of people, and that's what I think we've discovered right up front is how much you have to tell people and explain to people why you can't run out there and do their video and what you need in advance prior to running out the door with your camera and your wireless microphone to help them create their excellent show that they know is going to be the next award-winning presentation that you're going to run on your cable channel. So that's about mine bit on how to run it without any money. So.
Hello everyone, I know it's getting close to lunchtime, so I'll make this as brief as possible and I'll have time for Q&A. My name is Andy Tuggle. I oversee sales for the Americas for PlayBox Technology. One of the key things over the years that we've noticed with the PEG market specifically is the idea that obviously the budget constraints that they face on a day-to-day basis, they have to be creative in the way they actually build these solutions and how they actually attract the type of employees that they want to have. A lot of things in preparing for this, I talked to a few of our clients and even potential clients to understand exactly what the pulse is today. Obviously, in the past few years, the budget constraints and economic climate has caused people to really take a mind shift in the way they actually are approaching these aspects. First off, minimal budget. How do you actually build a solution that is going to allow you to actually have an on-air look that people actually want to see? I mean, if you can take an honest approach to the way you actually look at your programming and just flip through the channel and you come across your channel, is it something that you would actually want to watch if you weren't actually employed there and actually wanting to actually participate and are passionate about? And everybody in the PEG market, it's a passion. It's something that you do not based on monetary value, which I think everybody could speak to that at great length, but it's something that you're actually feeling that you're part of something. And so you need to be able to express that in the type of programming that you're actually providing. And it goes back to little things. Are you doing the homework to understand the solution that you're actually building to be able to get this content to air? Are you doing your homework to understand that this is the best solution? I represent a company that really understands these aspects and it is working with these types of industry providers that to understand the foundation has to be open, non-proprietary, allows for multiple types of content coming in, and how do you repurpose that? And making it so that you're maybe giving a channel out, but also distributing this over IP, which is obviously the way broadcast is going, and making sure that you're educating everyone around you to these aspects so that they're prepared. A lot of members of the board today have spoken to the fact of education being a key role. You know, when you're in a classroom and you're actually training these kids to be professionals, you know, you need to make sure that you're training them on something that when they get out there, they're prepared for the reality that they're going to face. In the commercial side, it's very difficult. I have a lot of friends around the world that broadcast, and I've seen them go through, you know, having to move their family from city to city and being forced to do more than they ever thought they would have to, and actually taking these cuts in pay and really straining themselves. And the thing that you need to do to attract employees is making sure that you're understanding that the quality of product that you're giving them is something that's going to help them better understand what the nuances are of broadcast, and being able to create something that actually is attractive. As I said, when you're looking at your programming, are you actually doing something that actually attracts people to it? A lot of what we do with our modules, we have a character generation software tool called TitleBox that allows you to actually look at your programming, have things that actually sponsor seeing coming up next, making it the quality on air look like something that's on the commercial side instead of coming from PEG. And the training aspect, as far as having these students being prepared, is I think something that needs to be underscored. Is it actually the gear that actually is going to promote them? Is it the various training aspects of understanding what this content is going to do, and something you can be proud of? I think what a lot of us tend to do right now is do less with more in every aspect. And I think the key thing that was brought up here is the partnerships that you have. I think you have to get out there in your community. You have to be able to be willing to put aside maybe griefs that you have with city council people to get this funding, making sure that they're aware of what kind of content you're doing and the betterment that you're doing for your local and regional viewers. You know, and so I think all of us know that, and when you go to these various conventions and you're listening to people about their trials and tribulations in this market, I think you have to make sure that you're understanding what's out there now. What is actually the gear that's going to be able to make these things come to fruition? So in closing, I think that really the main aspect of what I'm doing here today is being able to educate everyone on the various tools needed to build this infrastructure to attract the type of employees you want, and in the educating market being able to instill the values of true broadcast and getting an on-air quality look that everyone actually wants to see on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Okay, open for questions. Any questions? Yes.
A couple of you mentioned early on about doing programming segments with council members, and I wondered if you had to, how careful you had to be about doing that to not create any political tension, and did it have to change if those council members were up for re-election?
Well, let me, I guess, address for Raleigh first. We, once again, utilize people who had a reason to do a spot to introduce something. Second thing is you don't utilize anybody in that window before general or your preliminary elections. You just don't bring them on individually. Only as they're doing their, conducting their business as a council member. I'm sorry, who wants to watch?
I'll just add that we pretty much, with the council spotlights, we're only interviewing the council members who are on that particular committee. So that helps keep the equity, if you will. And then during election, as Michael was saying, but an interesting thing, we produced a walk, when they get first elected, we go out and we walk with them and they talk about their district. And that video goes on their website. Interestingly enough, our attorneys ruled that while videos and programming potentially helping during an election is not eligible for television, it wouldn't necessarily have to come down off their council pages. So it's been very interesting. So that's where you have to have that close relationship with your attorney's office.
For us, what we do with the council members, we have 15 council members, and probably half of those council members, and they will tell you, and I've had them tell me, I have no desire to be on television whatsoever. I get reelected because I do the work in my district. So So the other half want to be on television. So the way we go about the segments, for instance, we have one called Live Smarter, Live Better. There's no politics there. Of course, there's politics where the council member gets more face time, if you will, on television. But he's talking about healthy eating initiatives. He's talking about cooking, he's talking about gardening, but he does it in his district. And so he's bringing people on that are in the community. So that kind of balances it out. One of the other council members does a segment called Keep It in Town. His focus is strictly on businesses in his district. And he does a really good job when we talk about making sure that the businesses are diverse and you're getting different type of group of people. So we're very meticulous about how we go about it, who's interviewed, and it's not just FaceTime, if you will, for the council. We have a couple that they're hams. I mean, they love being on television, but we do. We have conversations with them and kind of level set their expectations. We don't allow them to, in other words, put a segment on week after week after week, because at that point, yeah, you would, kind of get into a gray area. And then we are getting, this will be my first go around, I'm already experiencing with elections. Elections are in November for council and for the mayor. So that'll be my first time dealing with that. So, but it's kind of a balancing act, but so far so good. But I think the council members understand it too. They want to make sure that it's fair for citizens for the channel.
We actually did something generic in Raleigh where we actually just did bios for each council member and ran them. So, it's introducing each member to the public on there and using that as a filler as well.
We do the community bulletin boards where kind of similar to what you're saying, where each council member, you get to talk a little bit about their district, and we run that on a regular basis. So it gets into a gray area. Council members will call special call work sessions. 2 years ago when I got there, they didn't want them on television, and now all of a sudden they want every single work session to be on television. And you're fighting that battle, and sometimes you lose the battle. For instance, with our mayor, he's kind of become a national mayor, if you will. So he's told me point blank, Michael, I don't need Channel 26. I'm going to be depressed every other month. So it's not an issue with the mayor. It's more about the council members. So, we just, again, try to be diligent about it and make sure that we're fair and balanced. Well, I know that sounds more like a news term, but we try to. That's what we try to do. So, but it's always that battle between legislative and executive.
I've got two questions. I was under the impression that a government channel was just meetings, rotating ad nauseum. And I'm glad to know that it's a whole different realm that you can put in on government channels. And I'd like somebody to expand on that a little bit. And my second question is, you were talking about partnering. What is that in terms of money? Do they partner by giving you money, or do you partner with them, you give them money, the organization that you work with?
Yeah, are you in a chargeback situation? I'm sorry, are you, along that kind of goes, are you in a chargeback situation like Raleigh and Charlotte and Atlanta, where you charge back? You're not? Okay.
Well, if we hear those videos that we'll produce for departments, we will DTI them.
So yeah, it's a chargeback situation.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
If it's
It may just be a paper transfer,
yeah,
but
if it's above and beyond what we can budget. With our outside partners, again, it could simply be they will help pay for a videographer. We do the editing.
Well, is that, and this is just a question, is that included in the budget figures you gave us, or is that in addition to?
I mean, it's in addition to. This,
Okay.
That's just our budget.
Okay.
For us, no, there's never any money exchange. For us, what it is for instance, and I'm drawing a blank, the last big hurricane we had last fall, I guess. The Red Cross is headquartered right in Atlanta. So they had a big push for volunteers and things like that. So the partnership is they reach out to us and say, can you guys come over, do a story? And then the relationship becomes, they reach out to us the same way they would reach out to the mainstream media, because a lot of times we get forgotten about. Now, the other part of that is what we will say in kind or in return is, yes, we'd love to come over and do a story, but at the same time, the mayor may do a PSA for Red Cross. And so that's the partnership that we have, or maybe it's a council member. And it's just the relationship, that they think about you the same way they would think about the mainstream media. And in turn, it creates original programming for the channel, whereas normally you may not even hear about it.
I'm just going to add something. Partnerships can also be interlocal and government to government. For example, we have a studio fee for just the wear and tear. And if the county commission is going to use our studio to carry the meetings live, it's ridiculously affordable. It's like $10,000 a year. We capped it, and it probably goes. The real cost is probably $13,000. But it's just establishing some interlocal agreements so that we can cover the wear and tear and some of the infrastructure costs of being, operating in that environment.
And to address the issue of government channel, the big difference between a government channel and public access channel is a government channel. You can pick and choose what you run. So you can pretty much do anything that you want to. Generally speaking, you try to, if you have a public access channel, you try to restrict your government programming to stuff that's provided. You either produce or government entity. The government entities could include educational, schools of any type. But generally speaking, you try to, like I say, limit it to anything produced and provided by government.
My limits for my government channel are, it has to be something you're either funded by either money or in kind with the government I work for, and that's how I decide whether or not it's allowed on my channel. Or federal or state.
Or federal or state. Any other questions? Sure.
I'm just interested in how many departments in your local municipalities are actually going outside and hiring videographers and producing things when maybe they should be coming through you. And that might be, yeah, I'm asking a question.
Any of you?
I have all of the departments come to my boss, Stephanie, who spoke at the last one. We don't have a dedicated government access channel department. Our government access channel is part of our public information office. And we do get requests, and we will handle, we decide, the public information office decides with the administrator the merit of the event or of the department's request to see if whether or not it's going to be a priority or not. We did have our stormwater department wanted to have a series of 6 PSAs that they had put a lot of thought into. They had written some scripts out. They had some shot lists, very well put together. But upon looking at that, I realized that the time commitment required to produce these 6 PSAs are something that I would not be able to commit to myself, just because the scope of it was something more than I would be able to tackle and still maintain the day-to-day operations that we got to do. So I referred them to an independent contractor, which they have recently hired, and they've started production on. Only in instances where I see if they're willing to pay for it, and it's something that I won't be able to accommodate in the near future, I will reference them to people that I know in our market that can handle that project for them.
In Raleigh, some of the departments will, because we have, like every other department, Raleigh Television Network has time constraints, and we have certain services we can provide. So on occasion, if a project is too large, such as we did one, the water treatment plant, kind of the history of water treatment in Raleigh, because we had a new water treatment plant go online and a couple of other things. So we hired a producer. And the department paid for that, and we provided the extra production support for him. He's the guy who actually scripted it, put it together, appeared on it, so forth. We also have been training PIO officers in different departments to produce things. And anything that a department puts up on social media or uses here has to run through us to review it. Part of the, I've looked at other cities' YouTube sites, and you'd be amazed how many of them how many of the videos don't have any identifiers on them. They don't put their, who actually, at the end of it, they don't put who actually provided it. They don't put any contact information. Yeah, so anything that goes up on YouTube, if you're wasting your time kind of putting it up there, if you don't identify who did it and then where people can get additional information. So, that's one thing to be real careful about if you see it, if you're doing it on your YouTube site. So, Jim.
Just to kind of piggyback on what Michael just mentioned, we just had it was right before Christmas, the police department, Atlanta Police Department is the second, I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly, most LGBT-friendly police department in the country other than San Francisco. And there's a campaign called It Gets Better. And San Francisco produced this wonderful video, and it was about 9 to 10 minutes. And APD, Atlanta Police Department, wanted to do the same thing, and they came to me and said, hey, we want to do this video, this is what we want to do, it's great, yada, yada, yada. And I said, guys, this is beyond what we do on a day-to-day basis. So kind of like what Michael mentioned, they hired a producer. We did shoot the video. We don't shoot in HD, we still shoot in standard depth, but we have the cameras to do it. So we shot it all. In saying that, though, my guess is they probably spent around $10,000. But it's a great video. They've won awards for it, and again, it gave us automatic programming. But it's a level of programming that we typically would never have. But the idea is that partnership and making other departments across the city or counties understand that if you want to take it to that next place, that's where we want to go as well. But sometimes the financial constraints that we have, we're not able to do. And I think you just have to be realistic with your own department.
I just want to add to that. It seems like the police departments are good for seed money, if you will, in developing some programming, because we haven't produced anything quite like that, but Wendy's working on a series of recruitment videos, 3 profiling female recruits and 3 male recruits. And it's a big project. They're willing to work overtime on it, but again, it seems like I hear more and more police departments, trying to, attract and recruit and be, a good place to work. You might want to look within the departments that you serve. Who's the most active? Who's got the biggest agenda going on right now that where they could provide that seed money for programming?
Any other questions? Okay. Hope if there's 2 things you take away from this is, one, the importance of partnering. Your partners, your council, your administration, people in the community, anybody that you can partner with to provide additional programming and make your department, your efforts successful is what you should be doing. And the second thing is to program for your particular market, your particular needs. If you're doing something exactly like somebody else is doing, one of you's doing it wrong. Okay? So you need to make everything.
No, that's only if you're in the same market. Now, I can take
No. You're doing exactly.
Recycling's good.
Well, I'm talking about the total program. So, use somebody else as a model to get started, but then tailor it to your needs. Okay? Thank you, everybody, for participating. Appreciate it. Don't forget lunch, 12:15. Thank you very much.
A gentleman from Sanford said that having to get PSAs from somebody. If you're not familiar with Ad Council, I've downloaded dozens and dozens of PSAs from there that you can get for free.